Dear participants, this is the 26th session of this national workshop on research methodologies in geography. And today we have very renowned person, Dr. Deepali Gadkari, and her specialization in geomorphology. So it is a golden opportunity for you to listen and to acquire the techniques of research in the field of geomorphology. Dr. Gadkari has completed her entire education from University of Pune, and also she has completed some certificate courses in the area of remote sensing and GIS from IRS Dehradun. Also she has completed diploma in geoinformatics from CDAC Pune, and a course 6 weeks course on disaster preparedness offered by the Petersburg University on Coursera, conducted in 21st January 2020. Regarding the professional experience, she has almost 70 plus years experience working in University of Pune and University of Mumbai and CPT University Ahmedabad, SP University Pune, etc. And her entire focus is related to remote sensing, GIS applications, then geomorphology and application of geospatial technology for the analysis of geomorphological problems, or to understand the geomorphology of uh, various regions throughout India. Concerning research, she is a recognized PhD supervisor of University of Mumbai, and one minor research project related to mangroves around Mumbai is at the credit of Dr. Gadkari. Mostly she has focus of research in the area of earth sciences, then coastal studies, seismological studies, pluvial system, disaster management, anthropogenic and natural hazards, digital image processing and applications, and GIS modeling. So once again, I would like to say that you are really very lucky that today you will get various innovative ideas regarding the research in geomorphology. Also, she has delivered lectures at national and international level in various conferences, seminars and workshops. Also, she is provided training to staff members of Swasti Agro and Bioproducts Private Limited, Pune. She has written various newspaper articles, also written some scripts, and she is a life member of Indian Institute of Geographers, Indian Society of Earth Sciences, Indian Society of Geomatics, etc. With this brief introduction, once again, I welcome to Dr. Deepali Gadkari, Madam. Madam, on behalf of all the collaborating institutions, I welcome to you for this national workshop, and I'm sure that today participants will enjoy a lot and will get some innovative ideas regarding the research in geomorphology. I request you kindly start the session. Thank you, ma'am. Please.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for that nice introduction. In fact, I'm thankful to the college which has invited me, all the collaborating colleges and management bodies. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to interact with young geomorphologists and geographers. Today, we are going to see the techniques in geomorphology. I was thinking, what should I begin with? What should be my focus and how should I begin my lecture? And then I remembered a sentence my guide, Professor Joe, told me when I started my MPhil research way back in 1996. At that time, we were having very few facilities and almost नहीं था हमारे पास. आजकल जीपीएस तो अपना मोबाइल में भी चलता है, लेकिन हमारे पास जीपीएस भी नहीं था. ना तो हमारे पास सॉफ्टवेयर था जीआईएस का, we have worked on the software which was developed by our professor, our guide, Professor Joe. So that was the condition, that was the beginning of new era 20-25 years back. And today I am seeing that so many techniques are available, so many facilities are available, but we are forgetting the field techniques, the basic statistics, statistical techniques, tools, and the way we worked was without, it was with minimal support of instruments and equipments. So how did we do that? And as sir said, innovative ideas. And so today when I look back, I think that we have many things, but we are not working up to our potential. But 20-25 years back, when we started working, when I started my research, we were really very productive and we were trying to evolve some new techniques. So please don't think that geomorphology is a very difficult subject and techniques in geomorphology becomes far more difficult to you. Nothing like that. So let me start today with a story which we have actually lived, and let me share my screen. Tell me if, and I'm just putting off my camera. Is that fine, Patil sir?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It will save the data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will share my screen now. So let us first just do 5 minutes. This is there is a small town in Konkan, and beach. If you can see, is my screen visible, sir?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Now it is
Screen is
visible.
not.
Yeah, now it is visible. Now it is visible.
Oh, okay. So this is coastal area. You can see this is a bay area. Here is Adgaon shore platform. Here is Bharad Khol. You may not be able to see that stack, but there is a big stack over here. Sea stack, jisko bolte. And this is famous Divaghar beach. My professor was visiting this area for more than 20 years or so, and he had observed that this area is getting more sediment. Okay, this area is getting more. Can you see this? This is sediment. And then that was his idea to correlate remote sensing data with ground data and see whether we can estimate the suspended sediment with remote sensing using the technique. So that was the whole idea. I must say here that at M3 level, I was very new, just completed my master's, and it was completely guided by Professor Joe. When our friends, our batchmates, everybody came for the help because fieldwork was an integral part of it. So what was the idea to do all these things was, in near coastal area, we plan to have some samples, water samples from this near coastal zone, because we were not having those many resources to go deep in the sea. But यहाँ से कुछ हम water samples collect करेंगे. Water samples will be filtered. Suspended sediment per liter will be computed, measured, and then we will take the satellite image, multispectral image of this area of the same day. So we planned our field work on the day when the pass of satellite was there. So we were working in 1996, I think. Yeah, 1996. So we took one, and then we located these sample points with theodolites. 3 theodolites were placed, one on this Adgaon shore platform, another on Divagar beach, and another on Bharadkhol sack. हाँ, हम यहाँ से पूरा वो थियोडोलाइट कंधे पे उठा के, उसका ट्राइपॉड स्टैंड कंधे पे उठा के, खाना पानी लेके यहाँ पहुंचे, 2 लोग यहाँ पहुंचे, 2 लोग यहाँ पहुंचे, ठीक है. This was because we needed the locations of the sample points. Nowadays, see, it is very easy. You go with the GPS and you can get the locations. But here it was very difficult, and 3 theodolites, ये बीच वाला और ये, so southern part में जब बोट घूमेगी, हाँ. And one more thing, this Bharadkhol is a fishing village, so we could hire a boat from here. यहाँ से एक बोट लिया, बोट में 4 लोग बैठे हमारे, with sample bottles, with stickers and everything, and एक bottle or a bucket in which water can be drawn, and with a rope. So the fishermen also helped us measure the depth. They have some very strong rope tied with an iron ball, and they drop that ball at suppose this place, and then उनको अंदाजा आता है कि अरे ये bottom पे जाके touch हो गया, and then they pull that rope and measure it with hand. So that I am not saying that technique was very precise, but still we could get the depth values all over. Okay, then we didn't had mobile phones also. Okay, mobile phones भी नहीं थे, so how would these people give signal to these theodolite persons who were supposed to take the location of the boat at the sample point? So we decided to have signals. झंडे हिलाने हैं बोट से, और फिर सिग्नल देना है कि हाँ यहाँ हम ले रहे हैं. फिर यहाँ से यहाँ बोट जाएगी, फिर से झंडा हिलेगा, फिर इसको पता चलेगा कि हाँ ये पॉइंट का रीडिंग लेना है, इसको भी पता चलेगा. सो एटलीस्ट 2 पॉइंट से एक सैंपल पॉइंट का रीडिंग लिया जा रहा है. क्योंकि थियोडोलाइट की जो बाइनोक्यूलर होती है उसकी रेंज 3 किलोमीटर होती है, एंड दिस इज आई थिंक 3 किलोमीटर यहाँ हो जाता है, और यहाँ एक थियोडोलाइट था. सो दिस एंड दिस थियोडोलाइट कवर्ड सैंपल पॉइंट्स इन दिस नॉर्दर्न एरिया. दिस एंड दिस थियोडोलाइट कवर्ड सैंपल पॉइंट्स इन. ओके, सो इतना सारा करके सैंपल लोकेशंस मिले. 2 लोग बॉटल्स में सैंपल्स, वाटर सैंपल्स कलेक्ट कर रहे थे, एंड आफ्टर 3-4 hours the boat came back to Bharadkhol, and then these samples were taken to laboratory where we did filtration, and then so many processes. As and when we come to those points, I will talk about it. So, and then we took the image of the same day and same time. Satellite तो ऊपर से कुछ seconds में चला जाएगा, that is fine, but उसी टाइम हम नीचे काम कर रहे थे. So the conditions are very dynamic, no doubt about that, but still we were ensured that on the same day, under same illumination conditions, same climatic weather conditions, we took the samples, and then we tried to correlate the sediment and depth values with the remote sensing values. Remote sensing values in the sense pixel values. Pixel values of 4 bands. We created some regression model, and then we found out which band is more sensitive to sediment proportion, and which band combinations are more suggestive to an estimation of suspended sediment. Okay, so let me not go into those complexities. But today, can you see my screen now? PPT screen?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll stop this screen and I'll again share the PPT screen. So this is how we started, and there were many flaws, no doubt, but still we could come out with a very good research. Okay, so at that time, before going to the field, I asked my sir, how are we going to do this? We don't have this, we don't have that, don't have echo sound, don't have proper sampling instrument. Is it visible now?
Yes, it is now sharing, but not visible yet.
Okay. At that point of time, my guide told me that, see, you have to start with what you have and you will reach one day where you want to. Okay, so those words are still there in my mind. Start with what you have. Okay, so our ancestors, geomorphologists, geographers, they have started with whatever they were able to do, whatever they were having, and then the next will proceed and go to the better techniques. मन में ऐसा फोबिया नहीं होना चाहिए कि अरे बाप रे अभी मेरे पास ये नहीं है वो नहीं है तो मैं कैसे काम करूं. काम करने वाले की इच्छा जरूरी होती है. बस काम करने की इच्छा बहुत स्ट्रांग होगी तो you will find out your own techniques. Now let us sir, is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
Yeah, thank you. So today, let us see what all techniques are. But here I am not going to teach any of the technique, but we will take the overview of some of the techniques because there are really hundreds of techniques and it is not possible to include every technique in this presentation. But we will see the framework of geomorphological research and then we will see some of the techniques. Okay. So, geomorphology is one branch of Earth surface studies, you can say Earth sciences, and other branches are hydrology, geology, geochemistry, biochemistry, geophysics should also be there, biology, engineering, human dynamics, and atmospherics. So many branches geomorphology is connected with, and that is why the techniques from each of them has come into geomorphology. Okay, and it widens the scope of a subject. It gives strength to the subject. If you don't diversify, then you die. So geomorphology has always been connected to many branches, many other branches, and has grown a lot. So basically, what is a technique? So it is a measurement procedure. Technique is a measurement procedure which allows us to define the elements, what exactly we are going to measure. We have to define it. We are going to measure the soil pH or soil conductivity or maybe grain size or maybe the depth or maybe the area, whatever. So you have to define the elements which you are going to measure. Then why should we go for techniques? Because techniques have an ability to measure and it has a potential to fix up your problem. So general conception of your research problem gets very needed focus and it becomes very precise, and that is why these measurements are necessary. Sometimes there is a conflict between quantitative techniques and qualitative techniques. Why shouldn't we go with qualitative techniques only? But it is not like quality against quantity or qualitative techniques against quantitative techniques, but the qualitative techniques can be used in a better way if you use quantitative techniques. So techniques are such procedures which help us define the elements, and it brings the precision in our conception, and then the quality also gets enhanced. So qualitative information also gets enhanced. So that is the role of techniques. So you can see some of the techniques, tools and techniques maybe which we will be discussing in detail further. Now, there are some approaches to look at this particular topic. One approach is chronological approach, in which people discuss how geomorphology has developed and how the concepts, theories, and techniques have been developed by various thinkers, and why in those times they were thinking like this, and they were then criticized, and new models, techniques, theories came, and that journey of geomorphology. But here, I think more objective approach is needed, those who really want to work in the field. So I'm following the approach given by Andrew Gowdy. There is a very good book by Andrew Gowdy, and in that book he has clear-cut made 4 sections in which he discusses the forms, processes, materials, and evolution. So landforms, geomorphic processes, the materials, that means the processes act upon what? Act upon the weathered material, the soil, water. So those are the materials. So material properties also matter a lot. And then evolution through time. So this is the approach with which we are going today. And if you say form, that is landforms, what are the things you measure, and how do you measure, and how do you use them in day-to-day life? That way we are going to discuss. So basically, geomorphology started with description of landforms. Okay, so the people started with description of whatever they were seeing. So Davis, Payne, others, even Glock, they were roaming around the field, and whatever they could see, they were describing. Then came a time when quantification of landform properties was done. So how is the shape, you describe it, becomes qualitative information. But how much is the length, how much is the height, how much is the depth, maybe. This is the quantification of landform properties. Okay, so slowly people started quantifying the landform properties. So conceptual landscape image of the landform should be translated into measurable attributes. I am seeing a mountain, and if my concept of mountain is getting translated into measurable attributes, that means, oh, this much is the height, this much is the slope, these are the aspects of slope, and this is the depth of the valleys. And then I call it a mountain. Very simple example. So conceptual landscape image of landform started getting translated into measurable attributes. And this can be done with accuracy, precision, and reproducibility. Okay, so if I do it and if you do it after 10 years, then you should be able to proceed with the same procedure or maybe enhanced procedure and get the similar results. Maybe there may be the changes in the landform, but that can be remeasured, and that is reproducibility in geomorphology. After 10 years, maybe there may be some changes in the river sedimentation or some changes maybe in the beach profile, but it should be measurable and change should be detected. Now here, when we say landforms and their measurements, we need to consider scale. Scale in terms of their size as well as in terms of time. Okay. So right from grain scale, एक छोटा सा वाल सा कण, एक छोटा सा सैंड का ग्रेन, यहाँ से लेके लीवर का लॉन्जिट्यूडिनल प्रोफाइल या बीच का क्रॉस प्रोफाइल, यहाँ तक का एक बड़ा सा स्केल अवेलेबल होता है ज्योमॉर्फिक स्टडीज के लिए. So the researcher should be very clear in his or her mind that at what level you are assessing the landform or the geomorphic process. So accordingly, you will go for maybe grain size analysis करना है, या longitudinal profiles लेके उनका comparative study करना है, उनका change देखना है, or something you want to superimpose on those profiles, some cultural features, and then see those profiles. You have to see this spatial and temporal scale also. As you can see this graph, here you can see that smaller the size, here they have started with grain size, smaller the size, less is the time interval within which it changes. It is more dynamic. And as you go towards the big landforms, you can see that the time scale has also changed, and time required to change this big landforms, mega landforms, is also there. So what you are exactly going to do, regional relief survey कर रहे हो या grain size analysis कर रहे हो, that will decide the sources of your data, which type of data you need, how you will get it. Everything is dependent on the purpose of your study and the scale of your study. So slope studies हो रहे हैं या grain size studies हो रहे हैं या within channel sedimentation के studies हो रहे हैं, you should be very, very cautious about it, and before you start any study, you should pay attention to all these things and then take up your study. In general, I'm saying these are the sources of data. There are many sources, many sites which give you free downloadable data also. So basically maps of various scales. Scale matters a lot, right? From 1:10,000, 25,000, 1:250,000, 1 million. So you have a range of topo sheets available, and geomorphologists basically have worked on topo sheets. हमने जब स्टार्ट किया काम करना तो टोपो शीट के अलावा ज्यादा कुछ अवेलेबल नहीं था. Now we work with the images, no doubt about it. So again, there is a range of remotely sensed data available of various resolutions, various spatial, spectral, and temporal resolutions, radiometric resolutions. You have multispectral, hyperspectral images. You have DEM data sets freely available. And again, from various sites, you can get those data. Here, the lecture is not focused on data sources, so I'm not talking about data sources much. But you can find out there are various sources of remotely sensed data. If you want very specific data, you have to buy it. हमारे टाइम मतलब 20-25 years back, public domain में ज़्यादा data available नहीं था, तो we had to purchase data from NRC. Nowadays, I can see that many of the things are available in public domain and they can be downloaded and used. So apart from maps and remotely sensed data, we need a lot of field data. Okay, geomorphologists can't think of just analyzing the images and sitting there in the room. We have to go to the fields, we have to collect the data with the sampling interval which is suitable for our own study. Okay, if I want beach morphometric map, then I have to go to beach and conduct a survey. Okay, there is no other go. No map will give me 1 centimeter interval ka contour, right? Which is very much needed for coastal studies. So in such cases, we have to survey the area, prepare our own maps, collect our samples, and generate our own data. So geomorphologists need this field data a lot. Sometimes previous records and reports, and there may be temporal data sets for this, such as earthquake records, which I have put over here. Then water level data, sedimentation data, gauging stations से हमें ये सब मिलता है. कभी-कभी हमें supporting data, rainfall का, temperature का भी चाहिए होता है. So those are the records and reports से जो data मिलता है. So whatever data geomorphological studies need may be classified into these 4. There could be many more also, but these are the major data types, data sources needed for geomorphic studies. Now, when we say that we are going to study landforms, then we need to define variables. We need to define variables in terms of slope, gradient, altitude, depth, area, size, physical and chemical properties, and so on. So quantification needs defining variables. क्या measure करना है वो तो पता होना चाहिए. क्यों measure करना है? What is the purpose of your study? Accordingly, you will define the variables. Accordingly, you will choose the tools and techniques, and then data is collected. So variables have to be defined. Then we have to also think of operator's variance. What is that operator's variance? Suppose I'm standing in the field with theodolite. I'm taking the locations of various sample points. And after maybe 2-3 years, I'm tired, and somebody else comes and takes charge of the theodolite or maybe total station and starts taking the location points. Then what happens? There is a difference between my height and his or her height. So accordingly, he will again slightly adjust the theodolite or total station instrument. Again, there will be some error introduced. So such type of operators variances do happen when we go for particular morphometric measurements. Okay. Or if I am taking the measurements with tape, then also थोड़ा सा slight एक change आ सकता है अगर operator change हो गया तो, कि मैंने tape कहाँ से कहाँ तक कैसे पकड़ा था और दूसरे ने कहाँ से कैसे पकड़ा. So that operator's variance will come. So as far as possible, एक पूरा डेटा सेट कंप्लीट करने के लिए वही टीम को वही काम दो और वही कंटिन्यू करो. Otherwise, that variance will increase. Then general geomorphometry, which there are 2 ways of again defining the landform components. One is defining specific landform and the other one is general geomorphometry. So measuring size, shape, and maybe the height of one specific landform, say one beach. I frequently go to coastal areas for my work, and that is why many times those coastal features happen. then I am describing one beach, fine, because of maybe its speciality, because of some unique feature. I am concentrating on one landform and I am defining its measurements. Or general geomorphometry of the region, how the surface is, how the continuation of the surface is it a rough surface, or how it is interrupted by other landforms. So if I go to the coast near Mumbai, we are working on Aksa beach because it is the most accident prone beach in Maharashtra. So we are taking each and every corner of the beach into account, and we are seeing that, okay, in this area, the grain size distribution is like this. In this area, water moves like this. So hydrodynamics, sediment dynamics, season-wise, everything related to one specific line. But for another student, maybe I'm taking the area right from Virar to Mud and I'm seeing the coastal changes in that area, then it becomes general geomorphometry, and general setup of the area has to be taken into account. Broadly, the changes in the area, which are prominent changes in the area, they will be taken into account. So these are the two approaches. As per the research problem, you have to choose one of them. Now, why do we take into account this morphometric analysis and all those things? Because so many things get affected. You can see yourself: construction, trafficability, erosion hazard, farming, telecommunication, then your position on the border. Terrain plays very important role in war logistics also. So movement of aircrafts and missiles, whatnot, drainage, right from civil applications to military applications. Land surface properties matter a lot. You can see various types of surfaces over here, and each of them will behave in different way when you try to connect it with these functions. This may be the whatever you can say. So plain surfaces and construction, mountainous surfaces and construction. It is very difficult to build roads in border areas, in Himalayan border areas, or even in the deserts, you know. So trafficability in these areas, you can just imagine. This is a plateau area. So how do you manage to treat each and every surface for all such purposes is very interesting, and for that you need to study the morphometry of the various geomorphic areas. Now, what do we actually measure when we say morphometric analysis or geomorphometric analysis? We talk about altitude, we talk about gradient. What is gradient? That is maximum rate of change of altitude. Then aspect, that is direction in which slope changes, everybody knows that. Profile convexity and plan convexity. So in cross section, how the landform is behaving, or whether it is changing with time, or whether we can compare the profiles of say a number of valley profiles can be superimposed on each other, and they can be analyzed for maybe trafficability and construction activity. Similarly, plan convexity is also measured, especially in case of, again, coastal beaches, to see how vulnerable a particular beach is to erosion. Okay, so there are many things which we need to do for that, and plan form of beach can be studied, and such beaches can be compared with each other, and then vulnerability assessment for erosion can be done from such studies. So when we sorry, when we say we measure altitude or gradient or aspect, we generally take point measurements, and then these points are then converted into surfaces. Okay, using some interpolation techniques, appropriate techniques, we convert these point attributes or point readings, point measurements into continuous surfaces. So this is the basic thing, basic geomorphometrical technique which we use. Then, as I have already said, nowadays we use total station, पहले dumpy level, theodolite, ETM, and then now total station, DGPS. All these are the technical developments which have taken place in a long way, and geomorphologists have coped up with those technological developments. That is a very great thing. That नहीं तो टेक्निक अवेलेबल है लेकिन हम यूज ही नहीं करते. So geomorphologists have not done that. जो भी नया टेक्निक आया अडॉप्ट किया, अप्लाई किया और रिसर्च को आगे लेके गए. So we have 3D surface data available, but of course it is of some specific resolution. अभी 10 मीटर तक का आ गया है, लेकिन उससे भी आपको फाइनल रेजोल्यूशन का डेटा चाहिए, तो यू हैव टू गो टू द फील्ड एंड कलेक्ट योर ओन डेटा, and this is how we analyze the landforms. Okay, so this is one way of analyzing landforms and studying the landforms. Then, as we said, materials. The Earth's surface is covered with some materials, and landforms have a blanket of these materials. So, unless we know the properties of these materials, how they behave and how they have behaved in the past, geological past, our studies are not complete. So, we need to study the materials. What do the geomorphologists generally study? They study soils, weathered rock, parent rock, and water. So basically, these are acted upon by the agents of erosion and climatic elements. Agents of erosion: running water, glaciers, sea waves, and wind. And climatic elements, basically rainfall, temperature, humidity, and others. So basically, we deal with the soils, we deal with the sediments, and we deal with the water. So what exactly do we measure? When we say we study the materials, various materials, what do we measure? We measure their physical properties, chemical properties, and material strengths. So in physical properties, again, size, shape, compaction, form, orientation, packing. And we will see this with examples and with diagrams also. In chemical properties, pH, conductivity, mineralogy, diffraction of clay minerals and all. Material strength, shear strength, general shear strength, then उसका जो Schmidt hammer होता है उसके साथ पहले करते थे. Now there are many sophisticated instruments have come up. So let us see what are the basic physical properties we have seen. So right from the size, mineralogical composition of sediment, form of the sediment, whether it is spherical, angular, how is the roundness of the, because all these things tell about us about the processes which have worked on this. If the grain is more rounded, this is irregular and angular in shape, many angles are there. This is slightly less angular, and this is round. What does this suggest? This suggests that this particle has traveled a lot. Okay, this has traveled a lot. and there are more chances that a river has deposited it, because in streams, particles or sediments, they go on rolling. They go on rolling. Of course, saltation movement is there, suspension में भी जाते हैं, लेकिन big size particles will go on rolling, and in this process they will get rounded up. So imagine a situation where a river is meeting a sea and there is mixture of sediments, and you want to see which process, marine process or coastal processes are dominant or fluvial processes are dominant. The best way is to go for analysis of sediments on various points like their angularity, roundness, chemical properties, other physical properties, their site where you have found those sediments, all those things, orientation, packing, sorting. So this is grain size or textural analysis you can call, and this is mud beach का हमने किया था एक छोटा सा study, and we found that there are some pockets of very coarse sand on the beach. Otherwise, the beach is covered with medium sand. Very coarse sand, coarser sands, and medium sands. And these were the areas where we found that there was a lot of construction activity as well as sand mining was being done. Illegal sand mining was done. So whatever analysis we did was exactly matching with the field observations and whatever we could see on the beach. Okay. So here there are big cement platforms built and all the coarser material is dropped over here. This area is meant for basically sand dunes. Sand dunes are on the coast, they are generated by wind deposition, right? So यहाँ से उठ के particle is driven to the backshore side and it is deposited over here. लेकिन यहाँ fine sand होना चाहिए था, लेकिन यहाँ सारा coarse मिल रहा है because there is lot of mixing, lot of waste material is deposited over there and lot of human interferences. So in this way, we can find out the processes, we can find out the anomalies in the behavior of landforms. Landform itself is not doing anything, but there are some imposed activities, and those activities are bringing the changes in the basic morphometry of the beach. Then another very simple but very useful process is how do we treat the water samples. It is like using the sedimentation and filtration things. This is sedimentation. You take a water sample and let all the particles settle down. You see how many particles are settled afterwards. You can decant the water and then you can measure this, and then you can convert it to per liter per liter sediment, and you can see how much sediment is there per liter in that area, in that spot from where you have taken the sample. Similarly, you can go for filtration. This is a funnel on which you have put a filter paper and water with sediments is poured. धीरे धीरे वो filter होके नीचे आ जाएगा. Sediment will be gathered over here, and then you can weigh it. You have to first take the weight of filter paper, and then after doing the filtration, you have to dry that thing in the oven, and then again you have to take the weight. So many things are there. This I have done for those water samples. In the beginning, I told you, we collected water samples from near shore zone. So after that, the water samples were filtered in the laboratory, and then we could get the per liter suspended sediment at various points. So that was our field data. And then it was correlated with the remote sensing data, as I told you. So spherical particles generally not found in native soils. Native soils, that particle has to be carried away from its native place so that it becomes rounded. So अगर मुझे rounded particles ज़्यादा मिल रहा है, इसका मतलब है these are transported soils, these are transported materials. So there are many such scales. This is one of them. There are 2-3 more scales which give us the gradation between very angular to well-rounded, and accordingly you can see something about the geomorphic processes in a particular area. Yeah, then we also need to see the rock porosity and void ratio. Rock porosity and void ratio, how much water can go through the rock. So, permeability and infiltration capacity का ratio है void ratio. Then we also talk about soil permeability. Soil permeability or hydraulic conductivity. That is the rate of flow of water through soil materials, and it depends on the chemical properties of soil and shape of soil particles, size of soil particles, compactness, and many other things. So such studies are done in geomorphology to see whether a particular soil is waterlogging soil or it is very well drained soil, and then you can further apply this to some agricultural practices also. Now we talk about the chemical properties of sediments and water. This is pH cum moisture meter. pH and moisture can be measured. So pH, conductivity, mineralogy, and clay minerals characteristics. So these are various things which geomorphologists measure. What is mineralogy? There are many more parameters on which mineralogy is done, at least 10, 15 more. I have included here some of them, such as color of the mineral, luster of the mineral, transparency of the mineral, specific gravity, mineral habitat. So all these are the characteristics of minerals which can be studied, and then you can in toto see the picture how the processes, the materials, and the landforms are connected with each other. We have to also see the material strength. So there are 3 limits. One is shrinkage limit, another one is plastic limit, and another one is liquid limit. So there are penetrometers of various types. This is pocket penetrometer, which I have put over here. Then Smith's hammer is there. So this is digital rebound hammer, and कितना distance का rebounds मिला उसके ऊपर hardness of the rock is computed. So this is one way of testing the materials, strength of the materials. So shrinkage limit is related to the moisture content of soil at which the soil stays at constant volume. Plastic limit, delimitation between brittle soil and plastic soil. Now let me tell you why this is, or liquid limit is again, sorry. So it is Just a minute. It's not seen. So moisture content at the transition form from plastic to liquid. Now, when soil behaves as a liquid, it literally flows. Okay, and that is called soil liquefaction. When does it take place? It takes place when a lot of stress is applied on the soil. ऐसा कब होता है? ऐसा तब होता है जब earthquake होता है. And if those soils which can attain the liquid limit very quickly become mobile, and you can imagine what must be happening to the buildings which are standing on those areas. If the soil layer, नीचे का layer पूरा mobile हो रहा है और पूरा liquid जैसा बहने लगता है, तो big buildings just topple down. That is called liquefaction. So you can do liquefaction mapping of soils in earthquake prone areas. Now let us talk about the processes. In geomorphology or geology, the processes are not evident, but they have to be monitored for a long period of time. They are slow processes. Generally, they are slow processes. If there is some tectonic upheaval or there is rate of sedimentation is very high, rate of erosion is very high, then those detected within less time, but generally they take a lot of time to bring a change in the landscape. So they operate on the landscape and all the materials which in the previous sections we have just seen. Everybody knows this endogenetic, exogenetic processes, their types and their examples. I'm not going into detail, but here you can see that weathering is in situ. This erosion and deposition are not in situ things. Though there are many agents of erosion, many processes, I will be focusing on fluvial and coastal processes because I have to cover the next section also, and fluvial and coastal are the most studied processes in the world. Fluvial landscapes are also they occupy larger portions of the earth, and that is why I will be covering two of them and related techniques. So what are the fluvial processes? Flow hydraulics, bed mechanics, sediment transport and sedimentation. So these are the four major components of fluvial processes. And which are the processes? Hydraulic action, abrasion, attrition or corrosion, and corrosion. So these are very nicely presented over here in this diagram. You can see that aberration, these particles are literally abrading the bed material or bed of the channel. Then this is hydraulic action. Due to the pressure of water, alterations are done in the landform. Aberration, attrition and corrosion. So these particles interact with themselves, and that is attrition. So what do we measure? Generally, there are gauging stations which, स्ट्रीम फ्लो एनालिसिस के लिए डिस्चार्ज मेजर किया जाता है. गेजिंग स्टेशंस पे डिस्चार्ज मेजर किया जाता है. फॉर इंडिविजुअल रिसर्चर्स दे हैव टू come with their own instruments and then they have to measure the discharges. Also the levels of water are measured. This is a staff over there, and you can see the water levels at various times, various seasons are measured, and all these data are very important and useful for flood control. Okay, flood control के लिए ये सारा data analyze करके बहुत ज़रूरी होता है. In which season, at what hour, what was the discharge, and how it is going to be if rainfall is this. So slowly we are going towards the modeling on the basis of field data. तो stream flow gauging में क्या क्या करते हैं? It is velocity determination, discharge estimation as I told, then water level recording as we have seen in the previous slide, and sediment movement and sediment analysis. This is again very important thing because nowadays many reservoirs are facing the problem of sedimentation. So their capacity is reduced by 10, 15, 20, 25% water storage capacity I'm talking about. It is reduced due to sedimentation in the reservoirs, and nowadays the studies are done where how much runoff is there, how much rainfall is there, and soil loss. You must be knowing that there are soil loss equations and remotely sensed data and some field data. They are the inputs required, and you estimate the soil loss from a particular watershed. And shortly we are going to undertake a study how a soil loss from a particular watershed is impacting the reservoirs in that watershed. Some of the watersheds are in such a bad condition that they have lost almost 25% of their water storage capacity. Okay, it reduces the water storage capacity, no doubt, plus it increases the risk to the floods. That is another important thing. So such type of studies are very important, and various techniques are used for each of them. Some of them I have just depicted over there in the first. So please remember that as per the topic, as per your research problem, there will be a set of tools and techniques required. You cannot say that this is the only technique for this particular type of problem. No. With time, the techniques have changed. With time, the purpose of study keeps on changing, and accordingly the tool set, the technique set also changes. Okay, so you have to first know what are the techniques available, choose the suitable techniques for your study, and if there is no technique available for the kind of study which you have in mind, develop your own technique. Okay, so river bank erosion is major problem where there are sedimentary environments where rivers flow through sediments. In Bangladesh area or in Gangetic plains, river bank erosion is a big problem. So here they have put the erosion pins. Then they have taken the readings of these irregularities with total station, also with the terrestrial laser scanner, and they have compared the results of these three techniques. Okay, so I thought I should put this case study over here because there is comparison of three techniques. This is very basic technique or very primary type of technique used, than slightly sophisticated technique, and this is more sophisticated technique. And such type of studies give us an idea about the technological development in techniques. Their comparative analysis gives us an idea which one is more precise and accurate, and in this way the journey of technical improvement goes on. So that's why I put this example over here. We are not going into the details कि कैसे किया, क्या किया, ये पुश पिंस जैसे होते हैं वैसे इरोजन पिंस लगाए, कहाँ लगाए, एक रिवर का जो सेक्शन उनको लेना था उसमें कई जगह उन्होंने ऐसे पुश इरोजन पिंस लगाए. Then they took the reading or measurement of this part and this part of the erosion pins. After maybe a month, again they went there and took the measurements, and then how much area is gone in the erosion, that can be, volume can be computed. Total station से तो पूरा वो point का height in the sense distance from the total station was measured once, twice, thrice, and then this profile was reconstructed again and again and compared. In this way they have done it. So there is no right technique for a particular problem, but you can have many alternatives and you have to choose the right one for your study. Now let us talk about the coastal processes. Again, it is a very vast topic, vast area, and there are many tools, techniques available. So tides, waves and tidal currents, study of tides, waves and tidal currents, measuring their directions, measuring their strengths, measuring various wave parameters like wave height, wave length, wave frequency and so on. Then sediment dynamics, materials के बारे में हम पहले ही बात कर चुके हैं. So grain size analysis मैंने जो दिखाया था coastal area का ही आपको दिखाया था, वैसे ही fluvial का भी हो सकता है. So sediment dynamics, not only grain size but the transport of sediments across and along the coast is very important, because these sediments, they keep on moving with the tidal currents, with the shore, longshore currents, and they keep on changing the configuration in the near shore areas. Sometimes it is very dangerous because you never know where a new depression is created and sediments are taken away. In the near shore area I am talking about. Such things we have observed on the beaches, especially on the Aksa beach. Sometimes some parallel sand dunes or sand bars which are below the sea level, below the water level, but they are parallel to the beach. Can you imagine that? And in between you have deep water and people are caught over there. And those parallel bars or dunes, whatever you say, they keep on moving. They are not stationary. So that is sediment dynamics, which is observed at many places in the near shore area. Then, as I told you, morphology of the coastal components, especially the beaches. Beaches are the most dynamic features of coastal areas. Shore platforms, headlands, they do not change frequently, but plan form and cross sections of beaches, they do change. Have you visited a beach in pre-monsoon season, monsoon season and post-monsoon season? There is a drastic change. You can't even believe that you had been here 3 months back. So much of scoring takes place, so much of erosion takes place when wave attack is more. Again, in fair weather season, a lot of sediments are there on the beaches and the profile is entirely different. It becomes rather convex profile, which becomes concave in rainy season. So many such things are interrelated with each other: tides, waves, tidal currents, sediment dynamics, morphology of the beaches, everything is interrelated. And then erosion takes place at the headlands as a natural thing, but it also takes place on beaches. Some of the beaches are under severe threat. If you know a beach near Vasai, it is called Bhuigaon Beach. One of my students was working on that beach. And that beach is under severe erosion. Each year they are losing one line of planted trees. You must have seen that casuarina plantations are there in the back shore side as windbreakers, and there we observed that each year one line of Casuarina plantation is filling down. Why? Because the roots have come up, because sand is taken away by the waves, and the rate of erosion is so much that each year we compared the images of each year, they are losing one line of Casuarina trees. So how the tides and tidal currents are measured? There are tide gauges. Okay, and here we have to remember that some of the tools, techniques are or can be availed by the geomorphologist or researcher on his own, but some have to have institutional backing for such type of big instrumentation. Institutional backing is necessary, and you can see here NOAA, which is government agency, US government agency, they have put tide gauges. हमारे यहाँ भी tide gauges लगाते हैं, but these are institutional initiatives. Individuals may not have much role in instrumentation. They may get the data. If they approach in a proper way. So some areas on coasts are restricted also. Here to the north of Aksa Beach, there is INS Hamla, that is Navy का एक base है. तो कुछ एरिया रिस्ट्रिक्ट करके रखा है उन्होंने. अक्सा बीच के नॉर्थ जाने का एक लिमिट है, उसके बाद रिस्ट्रिक्टेड एरिया शुरू हो जाता है. So some such difficulties also come, but those data are available with the institutions for, say, military purposes, for security purposes, also for restoration purposes, restoration of fishing grounds, restoration of maybe wetlands, and they have to maintain the depths of the creeks and tidal inlets. For so many things, they have to keep these data. As I told you, measurement of waves. So this is the wavelength, and you can see these two guys. This is lifeguard and this is my student, and they are trying to measure the distance between two crests. So in this way, we go to the beaches and we do this exercises. Whatever we have, we use. There can be many sophisticated techniques for this also, but जो भी available है उसमें से हम काम करना शुरू कर देते हैं. Future में मुझे पता नहीं कि what type of techniques will be available with us. So we take the water depth, then we also calculate the height of waves. तो wave का जो trough है वो staff को आके कहाँ स्ट्राइक करता है, और ये जो क्रेस्ट है वो कहाँ स्ट्राइक करता है, वो हम ऑब्जर्व करते हैं एक एक पॉइंट पे 15 मिनट, एंड देन वी कंप्यूट द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द ट्रफ एंड द क्रेस्ट, एंड दैट इज द वेव हाइट. देन वी कंप्यूट दिस फॉर all the waves in 15 minutes and then take the average for one spot. So एक बीच पे हम ऐसे 5-6 जगह खड़े रह के 15 मिनट 5-6 जगह खड़े रह के data we have collected, and then these guys have analyzed that data because we wanted to compute the wave energy pattern in this area. So 5 beaches पे हमने ऐसे काम किया. Aksa beach, Danapani beach, Erangal, Bhati beach is very small pocket beach, and then mud beach. So हर spot ये जो आपको दिख रहा है उस पे हम खड़े रह के wave के parameters collect किए. Then with formula we converted those parameters into wave energy, and those wave energy patterns you can see with the isolines over here. So this is the location, wave energy, जूल पर मीटर स्क्वायर में, एंड देन हाई लो मीडियम में उसको हमने क्लासिफाई किया, एंड दोज पैटर्न्स आर प्लॉटेड ऑन द मैप. दिस इज फॉर अक्सा बीच. यू कैन सी द इमेज ऑफ 2004, 5, 9, 11. But this data, which is energy data superimposed, it was done in 2019. So this ऊपर का जो दिख रहा है ये 2019 का है. We were not working since 2004. लेकिन उसके नीचे का इमेज डाला है और देखा है कि जहाँ हाई एनर्जी एनवायरमेंट्स है वहाँ बहुत ज़्यादा चेंजेस होते रहते हैं. You can see these images. So we try to correlate these changes with the energy pattern in those respective areas. Similarly here also 13, 14, 13, 15, 17, 18 जो इमेजेस अच्छे अवेलेबल थे उनके ऊपर हमने सुपर इम्पोज करके देखा कि उस ईयर में क्या हाल था. तो मैक्सिमम डायनामिक्स इज ऑब्जर्व in the southern part of the Aksa beach. So we compared all the 5 beaches which I just showed and found that Aksa beach is the most dynamic beach in terms of coastal changes. Then beach morphology. I'll quickly go through the slides now. As I told you, post-storm सीजन में बीच कैसे दिखेगा, उसके बाद कैसे, 3 months later कैसे वगैरह. So these are the various beach profiles superimposed on each other, and you can see that here the sediment is depleted a lot, then again either rebounced, recovering and recovered इस तरह से. So within 1 year you can see these changes, but if you observe beaches for say 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, then you can definitely say that a particular beach is undergoing severe erosion or a particular beach is in a equilibrium. Whatever it loses, it is getting back. So more or less it is in a equilibrium condition, dynamic equilibrium we call it. So for this we use typically the surveying instruments like theodolites, total stations, drones nowadays, and we take the profiles and then we study those profiles, superimpose them on each other, and then we talk about the evolution. That is how the landscape changes through time. So it takes a lot of time. We know that the age of the earth is 4.6 billion years. So since then the surface of the earth has been under evolution. So हम जो जियोलॉजिकल टाइम स्केल देखते हैं वो तो बहुत एक बड़ा टॉपिक और बड़ा एरिया है, पार्ट ऑफ जियोमॉर्फिक स्टडी. So here what do we do to know how old a landform is, how old a fossil is? We go with the dating techniques, relative and absolute. There are 2 types of dating techniques. Relative techniques can tell us that okay, this rock is older than this, or this part of rock is older than this and this is younger. This surface is older than this. So that is relative. And absolute, it gives you the number of years lapsed between the formation of that particular surface or a rock or a fossil and आज का मतलब आज के तारीख में और कब फॉर्म हुआ इसमें कितना डिफरेंस है. So these are some of the relative dating methods. So geomorphologists have been using this hammer for a long. You hammer the rocks and उसका जो resulting sound आता है उससे interpret करते थे कि how old the rock is. Very experienced geologists or geomorphologists can do this. This is very subjective, but ये करते थे लोग पहले के ज़माने में. And sharp bell-like clink if the boulder is fresh, comparatively young. Dull boring thumb-like sound, then it is old. Because maybe अंदर से वो weathered है, अंदर से उसमें पानी गया है, तो sound कैसे आएगा? Sharp sound नहीं आएगा. So this was a very age-old technique. Then I'll skip this. Then weathering rinse. Can you see these rocks? So these are called weathering rinds. And this surface is newly exposed, but this surface has experienced weathering, and that is why this rind has developed. So rocks exposed to temperature and wetness conditions at surface of the earth weather by a variety of mechanisms. You can see. In general, this weathering proceeds inward from the surface of the rock where the moisture is most accessible and where temperature changes most rapidly and with greatest magnitude. So this results in production of weathering rinds, that is identifiable layer like this. And then thickness of this particular rind tells us for how many years this rock has been exposed to weathering. अगर weathering rind नहीं है का मतलब this rock is freshly exposed on the earth, surface of the earth. If the rind is thicker, then we can say that okay, for so many years this rock has been on the surface of the earth. So these are very relative techniques. And then we come to the absolute dating methods. Some hidden clock we have to read, and then that hidden clock is in rocks or maybe in fossils. So how it is done? There are some radioactive minerals which undergo regular decay, that is called radioactive decay. That means parent atoms get converted into daughter atoms, and this rate of conversion is fixed. In how many years the parent atom is converted into daughter atom is fixed, and that is called उसका half होने में कितना time लगता है. So that is called half life. This is radiocarbon dating, and this is the comparatively what we can see, the simplest one, where you can see that carbon 14 is converted into carbon 12 at half-life time here is 5730 years. So अगर 10 atoms C14 के हैं and 5 उसके होने हैं, तो बीच में कितना टाइम जाएगा? तो 5730 years. So you take the ratio of both the elements, parent and daughter, and then calculate the number of years that must have been elapsed. You can see the newly trapped part of the tree as a fossil or maybe animal का कुछ इसमें ट्रैप हो गया, तो अभी कार्बन उसमें आना स्टॉप हो गया, कार्बन का कन्वर्जन स्टार्ट हो गया C14 से C12 में. So this is 100% after these many years, 5700 years, 50 हो गया, उसका 25% बच गया, इतने years इसमें ऐड कर दिए, फिर इसमें और ऐड करके अगर ये रेशो मिल रहा है तो इतने years lapse हुआ है. That is the simple logic. But what happens, you know, इसके बाद 17 साल, इसके बाद और 5000 और 10,000 15,000 साल भी जाएंगे, थोड़ा एक कम होते होते कार्बन खत्म हो जाएगा. So we calculated it 36,000 या ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 45,000 years तक हो जाता है. उससे ज़्यादा पीछे का है तो वो खत्म ही हो जाता है. So C14 has very limited applications. Especially for archaeological purposes it is good because इतना archaeological studies के लिए उतना years का काफी हो जाता है. But for geologic and geomorphologic studies we need greater cycles जिनका half life और ज़्यादा है. ऐसे वाले elements का study जरूरी रहता है, जैसे कि uranium 238 which gets converted into thorium 234. So this takes a lot of time, and it is uranium thorium dating technique it is called. There are many such cycles you can see in this figure, and they have half-life of, say, some thousands of years, some lakhs of years. For each of them, the half-life time is different. So let us not go into those details, but these dating techniques have brought revolution in geomorphology and geology, because now we can definitely, or to some extent, say that this particular surface was formed before these many years. At that time, what must be the climatic conditions, what must be the tectonic conditions, and we can reconstruct the history of the earth. And that is one major thing with geomorphologists and geologists. Even sea level changes, climate change, इसके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी होता है. So I'm just. And then the last part in last 20-25 years, which has come up with a big thing, is that is geoinformatics and geomorphology. So it has brought major changes in the approach towards geomorphic research. With remote sensing data, now we can access or map the remote areas which were inaccessible so far. जहाँ जा ही नहीं सकते थे ऑन फुट, वो एरियाज भी अभी स्टडी के लिए अवेलेबल हो गए. यू कैन मैप देम, यू कैन एक्सप्लोर देम. इट हैज बिकम पॉसिबल. देन tracking geomorphic processes to some extent has become possible due to availability of temporal data sets. अभी देखो 1972 में लैंडसेट के इमेजेस आना शुरू हो गया, 1988 में इंडियन रिमोट सेंसिंग के इमेजेस आना शुरू हो गया. सो ऑलमोस्ट फॉर लास्ट 40 to 50 इयर्स का डेटा अभी हमारे पास लैंडस्केप का है, किसी ना किसी सेंसर का, किसी ना किसी सैटेलाइट का. So that temporal data sets are now available for geomorphic studies. 40 years is nothing for geomorphic studies, but some processes like sedimentation, like erosion of beaches or bank erosions, they take place within, say, 10, 15 years, 14 years, or maybe 40 years. And those can be very well studied with such type of data sets. Then mega geomorphological studies became possible. If I want to study the basin circularity index of Himalayan range, पूरा का पूरा, तो इसके पहले मेरे पास बाप रे इतने सारे टोपोशीट जमा करो, उनके ऊपर ट्रेसिंग करो, बहुत मुश्किल काम था. Now remote sensing images are available, DAME data is available. You can take the profiles as you want to. You can delineate the water basins, watersheds, delineate the river basins, and do the morphological studies as you want. Of course, there are advantages and disadvantages of remotely sensed data, but you can at least have some idea about the mega landforms. You can undertake vast region under your study. Otherwise, on foot, how much you can go and how much you can study, that was a big question. Then, as we know, multispectral capability of remotely sensed data. So you can not only multispectral, but you can use the hyperspectral data to differentiate between the minerals. Geologists do this kind of studies for detecting the minerals, for differentiating between the minerals. In a big way, geoinformatics has come up, and many innovative types of studies are taken up by geomorphologists nowadays. So thank you. My presentation was mainly based on this book. So structure of the presentation was based on this book. These are Andrew Cowdery's book, as I told in the beginning itself. And these are other books which are very good for techniques in geomorphology, and other sources many slides पे दिए हैं. So thank you so much for your patient listening, and thanks to Sardar Patil sir and all the organizers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your deliberations. Dear participants, if you have any query, any doubt, please feel free to ask Dr. Gadkari madam. Please. You can ask in Hindi, you can ask in Marathi also, no problem at all. PG students, if you have interest in geomorphology, or if you are interested to undertake your PG research project in the area of geomorphology, please ask the question. Geomorphology is such a vast subject, so you can share your innovative ideas also. Participants, no doubts. Okay. Dear Madam, once again, on behalf of all the organizing committee, I extend my sincere thanks to you. Our motive behind organizing such explorative lectures, you can say specialized lectures, because students can understand the what type of research can be possible in that branch and sub branch of geography. So they may undertake the research projects, their PG dissertation in that branch of geography. Until today, we are able to cover most of the branches. For some branches, we didn't get the expertise, so that lecture skipped away. But in future, we will try to organize specialized sessions also. Or in collaboration, if the researcher are interested, we may organize a specialized course on research methodology in geomorphology also, because we have expertise and you will get the detailed ideas. Ma'am, on behalf of all the organizers and all the participants, I extend my sincere thanks to you for sharing your valuable time and being associated with us for 2 lectures. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and
Thank
congratulations to you for organizing such a wonderful workshop. I'm sure that it will really
Thank you.
help
Till
the young
now there are
geographers.
four sessions. Yeah, definitely. Till there are 4 sessions are there, but there is Diwali break is there,
Major
and
part is over. Major part.
major part is over. Only the topic, I mean lecture related to applications of remote sensing and GIS is at